Say the only growing space I had was one raised bed, not an acre, not a backyard full of rows, just a single box, 4 feet by 8, sitting in the one sunny spot I had. Could I feed my family from it all summer? Let me be honest with you right at the start, because that honesty is the whole point. One bed will not grow you wheat, or press your oil, or raise you an animal, and it will not carry you through deep winter. A single bed cannot feed you everything. But there is one thing it can do, and it is the thing that fills most of your cart in the warm months. It can put fresh summer vegetables on your family's plates, dinner after dinner, from early summer right up to the first frost. The tomatoes, the beans, the cucumbers, the squash, the greens you buy every single week all season, that whole warm weather shopping list can grow in one box. So this is the garden I would actually build, step by step, if that one bed were all I had, in the order I would build it, from the back of the bed to the front, starting with the tallest crops and ending with the trick that keeps it feeding you all the way to autumn. And the whole thing runs on one idea this channel keeps coming back to. It was never about how much land you have. It is about how hard each square foot works. Here is step 1, and it starts at the very back of the bed. Step 1 is a wall of climbers at the back, and this is the move most people miss with a raised bed. Before I planted a single seed, I would stand a trellis along the north end, the back edge, and here is why that matters. The tallest crops go at the back, so they never shade anything in front of them, and a trellis turns the empty air above the bed into growing space the floor could never give you. Up that trellis go 2 of the heaviest producers you can grow, pole beans and a cucumber vine or 2. Beans first, because they earn the space in a way few crops do. The more you pick, the more they make. A bean plant is only trying to set seed, so every young pod you take signals it to flower and try again, which means a single run of pole beans up a string can keep handing your family pickings for weeks on end. The cucumbers do the same trick vertically. Trained up instead of sprawling across the soil, one vine can set dozens of fruit over a season from a footprint the size of a dinner plate. And here is the surprise that makes this back wall even smarter than it looks. The shadow it casts is not a problem, it is a feature. That cool strip of shade at the foot of the trellis is exactly where you tuck lettuce in high summer, the one place it will not bolt in the heat. You are growing 3 things in the space of 1. Step 2 is the crop your family is most likely to eat every single day. Step 2, a row of tomatoes right in front of the trellis, because if there is one fresh thing a family eats all summer long, it is these, and the supermarket version is the biggest letdown in the store. A shop tomato is bred to survive a truck, not to taste of anything, so this is the crop where growing your own is the most dramatic jump in quality you will get anywhere in the bed. And this is where the raised bed truly earns its name. Tomatoes want a deep, warm, loose root run, and a raised bed gives them exactly that, better soil than most people have in the heavy ground of their yard. I would set a row of strong stakes or cages and plant one indeterminate vining type at each, the kind that keeps growing and fruiting rather than stopping all at once. Now the trick that keeps a family fed for months instead of weeks. Pinch out the little shoots that sprout in the joint between the main stem and a branch, the ones gardeners call suckers. Taking those out funnels the plant's energy into fruit and upward growth instead of a sprawling tangle of leaves, so one well-managed plant keeps setting tomatoes from midsummer right until the cold. And because the bed soil warms earlier in spring than the cold, heavy ground beside it, you can often plant sooner and get a real jump on the season. A row of staked plants, pinched and climbing, feeding your family the one thing they reach for every week. Step 3 stays in the heat and keeps producing long after most crops quit. Step 3, peppers, tucked in front of the tomatoes where they get full sun but stay below the taller row. Peppers are one of the most obliging crops a family can grow because they are compact, they stay neat, and they simply keep going. Sweet peppers for fresh eating, a chili or two if your family likes a little heat, all of them happy in the rich, warm soil of a raised bed. They fit the plan perfectly, taller crops behind them, low salad crops in front, peppers holding the warm middle band of the bed. Here is what makes them worth their square foot. A single pepper plant will keep fruiting for months in the summer heat, and just like the beans, the more you pick, the more it sets, so regular harvesting keeps the plant pushing out new fruit instead of stopping. Leave a few to ripen from green to red or yellow, and they get sweeter and more valuable. But keep most of them picked, and that one plant feeds your kitchen steadily all season. Peppers also laugh at the heat that makes other crops struggle in July and August, so they are quietly filling your basket in the very weeks the leafy crops need a rest. Compact, relentless, and perfectly sized for the middle of the bed. Step 4 is the single most productive plant a family can grow, and one of it might be all you need. Step 4. Summer squash and zucchini, and this is the one that genuinely feeds a family. If you have ever known someone with a garden, you know the joke. By August, they are leaving bags of zucchini on the neighbors' doorsteps because they cannot eat it all. That is not an accident, it is the nature of the plant, and it is exactly why it belongs in a bed meant to feed people. I would give one corner of the bed to a single squash or bush zucchini plant, because these plants get big and they produce like almost nothing else you can grow. Here is the surprise that catches everyone out. One healthy zucchini plant can bury a household in fruit, and the secret to keeping it going is to pick them small and pick them often. A zucchini left to turn into a giant club tells the plant its job is done and it slows right down, but cut them young, when they are tender and the best eating anyway, and the plant just keeps setting more, week after week, straight through summer. The rich, deep soil of a raised bed pushes it even harder than open ground would. One plant, one corner, and more summer dinners than you would think possible from a single seed. So that is the first 4, the heart of the summer plate. Before the next 3, let me flag what actually changes here. So that is the first half of the build, climbing beans and cucumbers up the back wall, a row of tomatoes, peppers in the middle, and a squash plant in the corner. Those 4 alone are most of a summer's dinners, the fresh things your family eats week after week from June onward. The next 3 are what turn a good summer garden into a bed that genuinely feeds you. The daily salad base, the crops everyone wrongly thinks need open ground, and the one move that stretches the whole thing from midsummer all the way to the first frost instead of quitting in August. Quick question before we get into them, and I read every reply. What is the one vegetable your family goes through the fastest in summer, the one you would most love to stop buying? Tell me in the comments, I am genuinely curious what tops your list. Now, step 5, and it is the one that feeds you something fresh almost every single day. Step 5. The salad core, the greens and herbs that give your family something fresh to eat almost every day, and they slot into every gap the big crops leave. Along the sunny front edge and in between the taller plants, I would sow loose leaf greens close together, leaf lettuce, kale, chard, spinach, whatever your family actually eats. The trick is the one most people get wrong. You do not grow ahead and cut the whole thing down. You grow them close and harvest cut and come again, taking only the outer leaves and leaving the center to keep growing, so a single sowing does not give you one salad, it gives you salad for weeks. And right beside them goes a patch of the herbs you cook with most: basil, parsley, cilantro, and a clump of green onions. Here is the spike, and it is almost too easy. Those green onions regrow from the scraps you would have thrown away. Save the white root ends from a store bunch, push them into the soil, and they grow back again and again, so that patch is effectively free forever and you may never buy another bunch. Fresh herbs are among the most expensive things by weight in the whole store, and they rot in days in your fridge, so a living patch you snip from all summer is one of the biggest upgrades in the bed. A living salad and seasoning drawer tucked into space the other crops were not using. Step 6 is the crop everyone is sure you need a plot of open ground for. Step 6. Root vegetables, the crops everyone assumes need a plowed field. Carrots, beets, radishes, the things that seem to belong in long open rows. But roots do not want ground, they want depth and loose, stone-free soil, and a raised bed is nothing but depth and loose soil. This is one place a bed genuinely beats the average backyard. Carrots stuck in heavy clay come out short, forked and twisted, but in the deep, fluffy soil of a raised bed they grow long and straight the way they are supposed to. I would give a block of the bed to roots and treat it as the family's root drawer. Radishes are where you start because they are the fastest reward in the entire garden. From sowing a seed to pulling a crisp radish is often only around 3 to 4 weeks, which means one small block can be sown, harvested, and sown again several times across a single summer. Carrots and beets take longer but sit happily in that deep soil the whole time, and the beet tops give you a bonus pan of greens while the root swells below. Here is the part most people miss. Because you filled the bed yourself, you control the soil completely. No rocks, no clay, no compaction, so root crops come out cleaner and more reliable than the same seed struggling in the yard. The crops you were most sure needed a farm, turning over quietly in one corner of a box. Step 7 is the difference between a garden that feeds you in July and one that feeds you all summer long. Step 7 is the step that turns all of this from a few good weeks into a whole summer of eating, and it is the one most people skip. Keep the bed producing by resowing as you harvest. Here is the mistake almost everyone makes. They plant the whole bed once in spring, harvest through July, and by August half the squares are bare and the garden is winding down just when the family is still hungry for fresh food. The fix is simple. The moment a crop finishes, something goes straight back into that same square. When the spring radishes come out, a fresh sowing of beans or greens goes in. When the early lettuce bolts in the heat, that patch gets resown for a cool autumn crop. And here is the surprise that makes this even easier than it sounds. A bed resown in the warm soil of high summer often comes up faster and cleaner than the very same seed did back in cold spring ground, because warm soil wakes seed up quickly. So that second wave of beans, greens, and roots you tuck in during July races ahead and carries fresh eating right up to the first frost. Most gardens quit in late summer not because they have to, but because nobody replanted them. Keep filling the squares, and the bed keeps filling your plates. That is the whole build. Now here is how you run it so it actually feeds a family instead of just decorating the yard. Here is the part that ties the 7 steps into one working garden instead of 7 separate ideas, and it is the reason one bed can genuinely carry a family's summer eating. A single bed has one real limit: space. You cannot grow everything at once, and you should not try. 3 rules make the space work far harder than its size. First, plant by height. Tallest to the north, the trellis of climbers at the back, the tomatoes and peppers in the middle, the low greens and roots at the front, so every plant gets its own sun and nothing is shaded out. Second, plant intensively, in close blocks rather than lonely rows with bare dirt between them, because every inch of good soil you leave empty is family food you are not growing. And third, the big one, never leave a square bare. The moment you harvest something, refill that spot the same day, so the bed is always working. Something fast in the shallow front, something tall on the strings, something slow in the deep block, and never a patch of soil sitting idle wasting a week of summer sun. And grow what your family actually eats, not what looks impressive in a photo. Aim the whole bed at your real summer shopping list, the fresh things they reach for every week, so the payoff is not a pretty garden. It is the quiet night you set dinner on the table and realize almost all of it came out of one box in the yard. That is the system. Not a bigger plot, a fuller schedule. So that is the garden I would build if one raised bed were all I had. A wall of beans and cucumbers climbing the back, a row of tomatoes, peppers holding the middle, a squash plant burying you in fruit from the corner, and greens, herbs, and roots filling every gap, all of it rezoned through the summer so it never stops feeding you until the frost. This channel is called 1 Acre Blueprint, and by now the real lesson is clear. The blueprint was never really about the acre. It is about how hard each square foot works, and one bed worked properly can put fresh food on a family's table all summer long. Do not try to build all of it at once. Pick one to start this week. The radishes give you a harvest in under a month if you want a quick win. The greens feed you almost every day, and a single squash plant will feed the whole family before you know it. Subscribe to stay on the 1 Acre Blueprint, because next we take this same idea and scale it up, the exact plan for turning one bed into a whole backyard that feeds a family well past summer and deep into the cold months. And tell me in the comments, if you had just one raised bed, which of these 7 are you planting first?